Okay, we read Isabel's letter. I mean, Clara's letter. Look who's here, Clara approached him. Wait, Lumi stepped into the restaurant, instantly greeted by its cozy atmosphere. He saw Clara, who was busy making small talk with guests. Lumi waved at her, trying to get her attention. Look who's here, Clara approached him. Here I am, Lumi chuckled nervously. So busy, man. Did you read the letter? She asked. Can we go somewhere else? Lumi suggested lightly. Sure, Clara agreed. They moved to a quieter corner of the place. As they stood facing each other, Lumi looked around. I've read it, he finally spoke. Clara's expression seemingly tightened. She knew this letter would change something. Lumi took a deep breath. Clara, I'm already seeing someone else. A flicker of disappointment crossed Clara's eyes, but she quickly composed herself. Oh, she said softly, looking down for a moment. I see. I didn't want to lead you on or give you false hope, Lumi continued, feeling the tension in the air. You mean a lot to me, and I value our friendship. Clara nodded, her smile returning, a bit strained. I appreciate your honesty, Lumi. Really, I do. You deserve someone who can give you their full attention, Lumi said, trying to reassure her. You're an amazing person, Clara. Thank you, she replied, her voice steady. I guess I just need some time to process this. Of course, Lumi said softly. Take all the time you need. Clara glanced around her professional demeanor slipping back into place. I should get back to work, she said, but thank you for telling me. It means a lot. Take care, Clara, Lumi replied, watching her walk away with a heavy heart. We didn't talk to... Lumi approached the counter, where Birdie, the receptionist, held court. Lumi approached the counter, where Birdie, the receptionist, held court. The badger's charm was enticing, but a little too much. Ah, look at that, Birdie boomed. The parodical detective returns. His voice carried a playful bravado. The first few days in the town can be so tiring, can't they? His smile revealed his golden tooth. Hopefully the spirits won't keep you up. The last I heard, they're all up in the attic, probably planning their next haunt. Anticipating such a playful jest from Birdie, Lumi responded, tiring, that's for sure. I believe I have something that might cheer you up, Lumi leaned in. After all, Birdie was a racketeer, master of rumors. You wouldn't believe what happened at Clara's pub last night, Birdie continued. Apparently the wine was the only thing uncorked, if you catch my drift. Rumor has it that the statues in the square are still blushing, he concluded, his eyes darting back and forth. No way, Lumi responded politely. Seeking something deeper, he inquired, do you have anything more substantial? I see, nodded the badger, taking his time. His eyes finally sparkled. You know the new solvent factory he began? World is they're cooking the books. They're cooking the books more than their chemicals. If the authorities catch wind, there'll be a scandal. They'll make any pub shenanigans seem like child's play. Interesting, Lumi mused, but I'm more curious about the people, not the enterprises. Hard to impress, aren't you? Birdie straightened up. Well, there's a talk of young Isabella. Birdie, now more careful than ever, probed for Lumi's reaction and realized that this time he hit the nail on the head. A flower amidst thorns, seen wilting in the shadows of the slums. Such a dismal place for a delicate soul, no? Lumi's demeanor sharpened. He sensed a threat to follow. Birdie, a flower like that doesn't wilt without reason. What's drawing her there? Birdie preened under Lumi's investigative gaze, enjoying the brief moment. A flower usually seeks the sun, but every now and then it's drawn to the darkness, his voice deepened. They say there's a chill to the shadows of light, a darkness that's not just absence of light. The darkness, Lumi repeated. And where does the darkness come from? Birdie's gaze darted around. Lumi noticed this was more of a genuine precautionary measure rather than the usual theatrical gesture. The old factory, my friend. The badger's once vibrant voice turned into a hushed whisper. Some go in, not all come out the same. Lumi's mind pieced together the mosaic of rumors and warnings. Does this have something to do with Isabella and her involvement with the slums? She's always been a wild hare, Lumi, but this is different. She's been dabbling in the darkness, mixing with those who wear it like a second skin. The slums, the factory, it's all connected. A web with threads as sticky as they are sinister. And you, Birdie, Lumi said, his gaze skeptical, locked with the badgers. How do you know all this? Birdie's chest puffed out. His usual demeanor came back in no time at all. Birdie knows all because Birdie sees all. Thank you, Lumi smiled. The badger flashed a toothy grin. Just be careful, Lumi, and remember that Birdie is always here to help. And should you encounter any ghosts, send them my way. I used to know one of them. The best way to communicate with him was to tell a tale or two about his former life to settle his restless spirit. His chuckles filled the room. Oh my gosh, we have a gossip badger with his golden tooth and knows a lot. I kind of wish like our little notebook thing worked so I remember where to go. I kind of do, but at the same time I don't. I know we have to go to the slums, the old factory. Should I just do that first? Actually, let me go to the plant first. Let's go to the slums. Old factory. With a measured breath, Lumi acknowledged the risk, yet occurring to Birdie, entering would uncover something pivotal. Standing before the silent factory, which seemed to anticipate his decision, he pondered his next move. As Lumi stepped inside the factory, a sudden darkness swallowed all light, a stark challenge even for Lumi's cat eyes. The silence was absolute. His own heart beat loud in his ears. Straining to see proved futile. This unnatural blackness was unsettling. That's not right, he realized. A cat's night vision failing here sparked some unease. We have the flashlight. Lumi reached for his trusty flashlight. Its similar weight served as a small comfort. With a determined click, he was sure it would summon light. But there was nothing. No comforting beam to pierce through the gloom, no halo of safety to guide his way. Just the relentless presence of the pressing dark. Lumi clicked again, his frown deepening. A sense of frustration washed over him. It was like the darkness was a living creature, smothering the flashlight's capability. Okay. Ah! How do I leave? Hello? Oh, I think I just hit the map and leave. Okay. Well, let's go over here. The civil district was filled with beautiful buildings basking in the golden sunlight. Lumi walked by town hall. Further down the street, he paused in front of his father's lab, a familiar yet now closed and sealed place. Municipal police guards, identifiable by their blue uniforms, stood guard at its entrance. Since the accident that silenced the lab's once revolutionary hum, no one had been allowed entry without express permission from city authorities. The officers' postures were relaxed yet authoritative, arms crossed, eyes scanning the area with a sense of dutiful vigilance. A barrier of police tape marked the labs as an off-limits zone. Despite Lumi's repeated efforts to obtain a permit to enter, his requests were invariably met with denial. Across from the lab stood the music school. Lumi knew that his mother's melodies had deeply absorbed into these walls. Okay, can't go that way. Let's do this first. The Founder's Outlook offered a captivating view of the town. It was a place of workshops, boutiques, and studios. At the heart of the square stood a proud statue of the town's founding father, a majestic tiger carved in bronze. In stark contrast to the glorious figure, nearby sat a beggar, the smelly mole with the constant teary eyes. From Ethan's workshop, the distant chime of the clocks could be heard. He skillfully breathed life into these timepieces. Well, damn, he talked so badly about this mole, but now I want to talk to him. As Lumi approached the mole, the play of light on his torn attire and the practiced posture of need took him back to the city's shadowed alleyways. The mole, blazing skyward, embodied a hope refined by the many who passed by. His tin bowl caught the sunlight, a dull beacon in the day's golden embrace. Kind soul, the mole's voice rose, paws reaching but eyes averting in a well-rehearsed plea. Would you spare a coin for the less fortunate? In his 7 years as an investigator in the big city, Lumi had learned the worth of those who seemed to have little. They were the ones who watched, who knew the secrets that the streets whispered. Without a word, Lumi reached into his coat, the shiny coin glinting briefly before it disappeared into the mole's grateful grasp. The mole clasped the coin, his thanks a soft murmur, while Lumi walked on, aware that in the currency of the streets he had perhaps gained more than he had given. Damn, we got nothing. If we talk to him again, will he give us something? Okay, I guess not. Stepping into the workshop, Lumi was greeted by the soft melody of a door chime. Ethan, completely absorbed in his work, seemed obvious to the sound that had just welcomed Lumi. With unwavering focus, he was painstakingly working on yet another mechanism. Lumi's soul found sudden ease and warmth. It was as if his worries were suddenly lifted away, leaving a place only for this blissful peace. Ethan finally looked up. Ah, Lumi, his face broke into a contagious smile upon. Come in, he beckoned, wiping his paws on a cloth as he stood up. Welcome. I think, Lumi began. Now I know why you're drawn to clocks. I'm glad you finally got to see it, he humbly nodded Ethan. Lumi's eyes landed on a small vintage watch. Its metallic surface shimmered with a touch of platina. Curiosity sparked within Ethan as he observed Lumi. He was so happy to see his friend burning with interest. Did something catch your eye? He gently inquired. Ethan's voice pulled Lumi out of his thoughts. Everything, he smiled, his eyes still fixed on the captivating display. I actually came by to tell you that I saw Isabella. She seemed off, but she's safe, just caught up in her own world, I guess. His gaze then shifted towards a magnificent clock. Damn, I wonder if we're supposed to tell Clara that, but then again, I don't think she wants to talk to us. Yeah, Ethan sighed. I guess we're slowly starting to go our separate ways. Lumi turned towards his friend. Don't worry, you're stuck with me for good. Is that a threat? They chuckled. It can be, Lumi joked before his laughter subsided abruptly. He suddenly froze, his gaze fixated on a small pocket watch. The gold plating was polished, and despite its simplicity, it excluded an undeniable elegance that had endured over time. That's one of a kind, Ethan began, following Lumi's gaze. He reached out his paw, picked up the watch. I should have done it a long time ago, he said, holding it out to Lumi. Your father would want you to have it. As soon as it rested in his paws, Lumi felt a familiar tug in his heart. I remember this watch, he began, his treasure. Just as Lumi reached into his coat to retrieve the wallet, Ethan's voice interrupted him. No charge, Lumi. I can't just... Some things are more valuable than money. This is one of them. Ethan cut him off with a gentle, dismissive wave. With the watch securely in his pocket, Lumi nodded. Thank you, Ethan. That means a lot. Here. The upscale neighborhood was filled with stunning buildings. Each house was adorned with grand arched wooden doors. Somewhere on the street lived Felix and Adrian. After Lumi's father untimely passing and mounting debts, the family's residence had to be sold. Here he felt the weight of the past more intensely than anywhere else. The grand station building stood proudly, capturing the attention as the first saw upon entering the town. Its facade showcased ornamental stonework and statues poised on high. The square in front was quiet. Lumi had returned through those very doors, expecting a short visit for the reunion, yet with each step he couldn't shake the feeling of unfinished business. Although the station had typically symbolized an exit, it now felt like an entrance into a new chapter. So we can... I know she probably doesn't want to talk to us, but... So if I go in here, right? I know you can't see anything, but maybe these? I'm smart. As Lumi's paws brushed against the smooth surface of the jar, he finally saw a green glimmer of light. The fireflies gracefully danced now seemed. In this silence, he could vividly hear their wings beating against the glass. Their dim glow allowed Lumi to see the rusty door ahead, its paint peeling like scabs from an old wound that had never fully healed. He pressed his paws against the cold metal when the heave pulled on the door. It groaned in protest. The sound echoed through the empty building. With a few more pushes, the door swung open and revealed the path ahead. Lumi stepped through. The air was noticeably lighter. Light was tainted with the sense of the dampness and dust, an old factory reminder of the brutal settings. The space stretched out before Lumi, an industrial cathedral, abandoned and forgotten. To his surprise, the lights in this desolated place were on, casting a glow that illuminated the deep reddish-brown hues of the rusty metal. Lumi moved cautiously. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something strange: needles, twitching with an unnatural life of their own. A cold shiver ran down Lumi's spine. His first instinct was to retreat. The gaze landed on the carcasses of machinery. Without making noise, he crouched low, his eyes never leaving the unnerving sight. As he watched, a sense of dread slowly crept over him. It was as if the needles were growing, morphing right before his eyes. Emerging from behind an old boiler, a solitary figure, the hedgehog, made its way into the open. As Lumi's gaze followed the stranger, it was as if he blended with the world around. Lumi stepped out from the hiding place, his heart racing. "Hello," his voice bounced off the walls. The hedgehog paused, his head tilting slightly on the sight of Lumi. "Haven't seen a cat around these parts in many moons." His voice was steady and deep. "Who are you?" Lumi inquired. "Ah, please forgive me for my lack of manners," the stranger replied, adjusting his old dirty coat. "I haven't seen anyone for a long time." He glanced around. Not even the infamous porcupine, the king of the slums. He graced the last words with a smirk. "Roland," he gave a slight nod. It was then that Lumi noticed the paw, horrifically charred down to the bone. "What happened to you?" he asked. "This?" Roland said, lifting the paw into the light. "A gift from the shadows, I suppose." The darkness crept in akin to a slow poison. I tried to understand to find its source, but he glanced at the bones. "It found me first." He moved closer, his eyes glowing an eerie, unnatural shade of red. Met Lumi's. "I think I saw you once a long time ago," Lumi said. His hand doesn't look like bones, it looks like a normal human hand, but... "Your father's voice," he gasped. "You sound exactly like your father." "My father?" Lumi's heart sank. A wound not yet fully healed was exposed. He stood rooted to the spot. The stranger nodded, his expression reflective. "A man of great wisdom." "I worked here," he began, his gaze sweeping around the now derelict surroundings. "Your father used to visit us," he continued. "Back then everyone looked down at him and his bizarre research." His gaze turned distant. "But then your father, he saw the storm coming in with the rest of us. We were basking in the sun." Lumi's gaze never wavered. My father? What was he looking for? He was on the brink of something, a discovery that was just out of reach, said Roland. He believed that the shadows were not simply the absence of light, but something alive, something that could be understood, and maybe even controlled. Lumi listened intently, vaguely remembering his father's stories of the place. His lab, he murmured. That's where they closed it. Roland smiled. The same facial expression as your father had when he stumbled upon a clue. Lumi's mind raced with information. You mentioned the porcupine, the king of the slums? Roland's laughter resembled a dry cough. Ah, the porcupine. He may hold power, but not in the way you imagine. He leads the cartels, even the lowliest ones. All the beggars in town work for him. He's aware of all the news thanks to them. He's the underbelly of desperation, a criminal overlord who thrives in the fringes, where darkness is currency. If the authorities have kept their promise and left your father's lab untouched, he's the one who would know how to get in. Lumi nodded, understanding the gravity of his next move. Thank you, Roland. The hedgehog nodded back. Then go and remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing is not the darkness around us, but the darkness within. With that, Roland turned and shuffled back into the shadows from whence he came, leaving Lumi alone. Lumi felt that he had gotten the information he needed from Roland, and he didn't want to go through the weird, dark room a second time without good reason. Okay, well, I know we gotta watch, so let me... Okay, so I guess we're heading to the slums. Or not. I think we're good there. And good there. Back again, Lumi. Birdie's greeting was brief, yet warm. All well, I trust? Just the usual rounds, Lumi replied, accepting the nod as his cue to move on. Birdie offered a parting quip. Keep an eye out for the unusual, will you? Lumi's response was a simple smile as he moved on, the silent hum of the inn wrapping around him like a familiar cloak. But Lumi's keen eyes immediately noticed a slight pause. He had encountered this countless times in his investigations. I was hoping Lumi didn't give up. Perhaps the right motivation could help you remember what I'm looking for? The mole looked at the coin in the bowl, then back at Lumi. It was the first time their glazes met. Motivation, my friend, holds the key to many doors, he said cryptically. Lumi presented a small stack of cash. Ah, the mole's eyes gleamed. I may know something that you're looking for. Lumi handed over the money. The mole concealed it beneath his cloak as if it was a magic trick performed right before Lumi's eyes. The entrance of the slums by nightfall, the mole muttered. A friend will await you there. Who should I look for? The mole smiled slyly. They'll know you. Lumi nodded. He stood up to leave. With each step he took towards Ethan's workshop, the chiming of the clock became more and more distant. The mole's revelation had confirmed what Lumi had suspected all along, the intricate and tightly woven web of secrets in the town. How do we wait till nightfall, though? Okay, well, we went here. Did we just, like, go to the inn and wait? At nightfall, can I? The slums had transformed since Lumi's last visit. He noticed how previous tension had dissolved, replaced by an atmosphere of indifference. The locals now paid him no mind. Even the boar, whose presence had once felt like a warning, now rested along the doorframe, leisurely chewed on the end of the cigar. Looking for the boss, he rumbled, exhaling smoke in Lumi's face. Come now, he doesn't like to wait. The other figures barely acknowledged them as they passed by. A nod here, a flick of an ear there. Signs of a community that operated on the currency of silent understandings. The hulking boar led the way. Their journey was surprisingly uneventful. The previous hostility was replaced by an odd fellowship, as if the bar's acceptance of Lumi had granted him temporary immunity in this world. Eventually, they reached the porcupine's den, and the abrupt shift from the alleyway, disarray to the hideouts, ordering chaos was both disorienting and fascinating. And I'm gonna stop there for today. Hopefully you guys like the game so far, and I hope everyone has a good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it is for you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful one. Leave comments down below if you want to see more, but have a good one. Bye.